Good morning, everybody. John Stettin, past the wire in the war room, office, studio. Again, all three in one. And here, past the wire, the only place where you can get my thoughts often imitated, never duplicated. Preakness Saturday, and we got a washout. It is what it is. Got to play the hand that you dealt. Now, I've been playing horses a long time, and one of the reasons that I've survived and beaten the game and been profitable over long periods of time, years at a time, is discipline and patience. Now, we all get pumped up. We want to bet today. We want to fire hard, and a lot of us are going to do that. I'm going to play, but I'm going to play very conservatively. Now, I look to play the most money in my bankroll for the year on the big days: Derby Day, Preakness Day, Belmont Day, Travers Day, Whitney Day, Breeders' Cup Day, Santa Anita Handicap Day. There's about a dozen, maybe 15 big days that I look to really bet a lot more than I would normally bet on an average day or on a weekday. That's because there's bigger pools, higher quality of racing, hopefully bigger fields, and I think you got a better edge. But that's a whole nother, detailed conversation, and it's part of a long-term strategy in beating the game. Excuse me. Gotta have the coffee in the morning. That all said, let me say this. While we're going to play today, or at least while I'm going to play today, I'm going to do so conservatively because we've got a deluge at Pimlico, a washed out racetrack, a turf course that's ridiculous. As of now, I believe they're staying on the grass for the Galleret and all the other grass races are off. I'd like to be able to bet that the Galleret comes off before post time as well. That might be the best bet of the whole day. But faced with that, I say, for me, take a conservative approach today because, there becomes a lot more intangibles in an already very tough game that's got a lot of intangibles in it. So, sometimes we know a horse is going to love the slop, sometimes we don't. Still, sloppy tracks can be different. They can play differently. They can change over the course of the day. As they get looser, they can start favoring closers down the crown. You can start seeing a lot of speed, this, that. There's all these different things you got to watch. And one of the keys to success on a day like today is to watch how things play and change and evolve over the course of the day. That can be a tremendous edge. When you're locked into your opinions and you got blinkers on and you're like, this is what it is and this is what I'm going to do, and you're not willing to adapt and adjust and watch, you can cause yourself a bet that you might have cashed, and that's a mistake. I will talk a little bit about the Preakness and share how I am going to approach it. And one of the things for me on these big days is not just being right, but having sound logic and knowing that the way you approach the race and the way that you handicap the race was spot on. And sometimes it could be spot on and you just don't win, you're wrong anyway, or something happens. But I like to be spot on and I like to be right. And, I'll share my thought process, which is a little different than a lot of other people from what I've been seeing on, social media and reading from some of the, media people and whatnot. I looked at the Derby. And as those of you who listen know, I thought there were three horses that can go forward. Justify, Mendelssohn, and Mendelssohn I thought could bounce and win, and Good Magic. So that was 3 out of 20 contenders for me that I thought could go forward and win the race. And 2 of them run 1-2. Yesterday in the Black-Eyed Susan, I thought Kieran McLaughlin's horse can go forward, and I thought Kellen Gordon's horse can go forward. I bet Kellen Gordon's horse. That was my top choice. I did a video about it. She went throttled down by open lens, drawn away. So my point is, the way that I handicap, especially in the 3-year-old races, one of the things that I really look for and lean heavily on is horses that I recognize through my eyes and personal observations, through the thoroughgraph numbers and the past performances, are coming to a peak race or coming to their best effort. And a lot of times you catch prices that way because they're going to exceed what they've done before. And a lot of people make the mistake in handicapping, thinking that horses are machines and they're going to do the same thing every time. If it was that easy, we'd all be having this conversation in Fiji, drinking pina coladas right now, watching on a big screen on the beach. It's not that easy, and they are not machines. So that said, looking for the improving or peaking horse is an art of handicapping that you develop over time, and if that's your style, you hone it to perfection, hopefully. That's kind of what I like to do, especially in these kind of races. Now, a lot of people are talking about Justify having a lot of hard races in a short period of time, and on paper it would look that way. Some people are talking about him even, possibly being in a position to regress today. He didn't work between the Derby and the Preakness, which years ago horses always worked between the Derby and the Preakness. Now they don't so much. So, the game has changed and evolved, so I don't put much weight on that. The bruised left hind hoof, which was definitely, something that he was favoring and not putting weight on in that video. That's cleared up. He's getting over the track well, and I look at it like this. I look at it as today is not the day that I'm looking for regression from Justify. His pattern on Thoroughgraph doesn't indicate that to me. The way he looks doesn't indicate that to me, and his past performance don't indicate that to me. How I see it is, he had 3 very easy races leading into the Kentucky Derby. He won his maiden easily. He won the allowance race easily. He's had 2 wet tracks that he's handled with no problem whatsoever. Muddy one, a sloppy one, and the Derby was his first, quote, test. Mike Smith gave him a perfect, flawless trip in the Kentucky Derby. I don't think it was taxing, other than the fact that the Derby is inherently a taxing race, and 1.25 miles for 3-year-olds is a little tough. But I actually think the race is going to do him good, and he's going to come out of it a little better. And I more envision one of those Derby winners that runs even better in the Preakness, if that's possible, than a Derby winner that regresses in the Preakness. So I think Justify is going to carry the streak at least this one more and head to New York and Belmont Park and the Test of Champions, the Belmont Stakes, one of my favorite races of all time. They say it's lost luster, not in my opinion. And I think he's going to be going for the Triple Crown. And that will not be a bad thing for the game, and that will not be a bad thing for bettors, because if we can beat him that day, then we're looking at some interesting scenarios. And, we know a lot of really good horses have stepped up to the plate and gotten beat. We also know the Triple Crown comes in streaks, so it's going to be a very intriguing race. Now, leads to the $99,000 question. How do we play Justify if you like him and he's going to be a short price, which he is? Well, I look at it like this, sticking with my style of handicapping, it becomes a little problematic because there are a couple of different horses that all look like they're going to go forward. So, which one do you pick? Good Magic is obviously, going to be the second choice, and a lot of people think that's a cold exacta, but I'm thinking, if I don't think I'm going to beat Justify today, maybe I could take a shot beating Good Magic in the second hole. And there's a couple of horses that look like they're going to go forward. Quip has a very good pattern, good PPs, look like he's going to go forward. But visually, I didn't like his race in the Arkansas Derby, and I can't back him. Lone Sailor is going to be a little bit of a wise guy horse because people think he likes the mud. And he does, but I can't get there either. But Sporting Chance is a horse that intrigues me to run maybe second or third behind Justify and make it a price. Likes the mud, looks like he's going to go forward. 30-1 on the morning line. Diamond King fits that same kind of profile, but might not be as good as these. It might be, I don't know. I'm really not sold on him, but he definitely fits that profile of a horse that looks like he's going to go forward. And if he's classy enough to run with these, he will. And, he's one of the ones that I'm going to consider. And the last one is Tenfold, who I thought was going to be a really, really nice horse. I love his pattern on Thoroughgraphs. I think he's going to go forward again. I think he's a late developer and a late comer to the party. I'm willing to forgive the Arkansas Derby for him, even though I'm not willing to forgive it for Quip. And he is probably the one I'm going to land on for the second and third slot. So what I may do is I may bet Justify over tenfold in the exacta, Justify tenfold all in the triple, Justify all tenfold in the triple, Justify tenfold all in the super, and kind of play it that way with tenfold in the second and third slot. If he goes off the kind of price that I'm hoping, which is in the 20 to 30 to 1 range, although that might be tough in a small field like this, I don't know. I'm just thinking Justify is going to take so much money, whatever. So, I mean, that's really the only way I can find of creating value. If you're a multi-race player, which a lot of people are, I would approach it where I try to find two singles. If I'm singling Justify, he's not going to be enough of a single to really make the kind of money I want to make and punch the kind of ticket that I want to punch. And again, with the wet track, I don't want to go crazy. So what I would try and do is find two singles in the sequence, turn the pick 5, which is the lowest bet takeout wise at Pimlico, turn the pick 5 into a pick 3, and go 5-6 deep in the other races using a couple of horses that figure and a couple of big prices. And if I get a couple of big prices, I'm essentially turning that pick 5 into a pick 3, and essentially turning those two singles into a daily double. So that would be my multi-race wager approach. Although I've sat many days at the racetrack and people have sat with me and said, how could you sit there with a pocket full of money and not make a bet? You live to fight another day, I always say. Today, unfortunately, might just be one of those days because of the weather, because of the prices. Some of those other races look like they could chalk out too. So, proceed with caution, but we love the game. We're going to proceed. So that's my thoughts on the Preakness. That's my thoughts on the day. I wish there was more, but again, you got to play the hand that you dealt. So you play the hand that you dealt. And, that's kind of how I see it. And that's probably how I'm going to play the Preakness. So, I'm looking at Justify, not regressing, not even running the same, going forward, running a monster race, and maybe tenfold getting in the number to create a little bit of value. No knock on Good Magic if that's where you land. I mean, he like I said, there's a bunch of horses that look like they're going to go forward here, so it becomes a very intriguing race. I'm going to trust my eyes and my gut with tenfold as opposed to the numbers and the PPs and see where that leads me. It served me well in the past. So that's kind of my thoughts. And the last thing I will say, and I said this before the Derby, and if you read my column Past the Wire and you followed me, I think this, a lot of people are talking about the statistics and, Derby winners that came back in the Preakness and horses that run second in the Derby. How many of them have won the Preakness? Only this many or that many or whatever. Every crop is different. Every race is different. Every field is different. Every pace scenario is different. The weather is always different. None of those stats mean anything, on any given Saturday and on any given Sunday and on any given other day. We all know anything can happen in horse racing. So I throw all that stuff out the window, and I think you would be better served throwing it out the window as well, because it just doesn't, if you cash, it doesn't matter. Today is the day that counts, and what happens today is what matters. So best of luck to everybody. Enjoy the Preakness. Go get them. And we'll be back with more later if something develops. If not, we'll be back during the week with, more tales, more plays, more from the Sport of Kings. And again, Past the Wire. You only get my opinion here, often imitated, never duplicated. And cheers, salute, and ciao for now.